Welcome back to Three and Out. I'm Ryan Orlovsky alongside Brian Carter, and we're going to jump right into the email portion of the show. If you want to see your questions, comments, or suggestions aired, send us an email at 3andoutsports@gmail.com, and we'll try to fit you in.
All right, let's go with our first email. Our first email is going to be from Brad. It says, what is your thoughts on the Falcons season and why couldn't they beat Arizona? Well, Brad, I'm going to say you can never count out Kurt Warner. The guy's a two-time MVP. He's been in 2 Super Bowls, won one with the Rams. But the guy is in the top 5 as far as the best quarterbacks in NFL postseason history. But then the biggest reason the Falcons were unable to beat them is they couldn't stop the long passes. If you look at that, I think Kurt Warner had a 42-yard touchdown pass and a 71-yard touchdown pass. Larry Fitzgerald, 6 catches, 101 yards, and a touchdown. And then the Cards really held Turner in check. Michael Turner had only 18 carries for 42 yards. Not a good game for him, but an awesome season. They went worst to first. Matt Ryan had such a terrific impact on that team this year. It's something to build on, but you can never count out someone like Kurt Warner. So it wasn't really a disappointing loss. I kind of figured Warner was going to come through.
I think the fact that this was the first playoff game in Arizona in 61 years definitely had the fans and the players all hyped up for that as well. So it's definitely tough to come into the desert and play in that kind of atmosphere.
Yeah, true, home field. Next email is from Brett. Brett says, how do you feel about Eric Mangini getting fired by the Jets and hired by the Browns? Well, Mangini's 37 years old, or as they like to call him, Mangenius. 4-year deal he signs with the Browns. They were 4-12 this past season. But this is where Mangini started his career as a ball boy, actually, so he's going back to his old stomping grounds. But the biggest thing I like to find is I saw this little thing on ESPN. I wanted to read this out. Bill Belichick's assistants as NFL head coaches. Romeo Crennel was the first guy on the list, 4 years with a 24-40 record. He's the one who just got fired from the Browns. Eric Mangini, 3 years with a 23-25 record. Nick Saban, 2 years with a 15-17 record in the NFL. And Al Groh, 1 year, 9-7 record, respectable. But overall, a winning percentage of .444 with anyone who's ever taught under Bill Belichick. So maybe a little
a little bit of a curse there.
Yeah, I'd say so. Next email.
This email is from Josh. Will the Yankees always overpay their players? Will it ever end? Sabathia, Teixeira? I think so, because they can. They have the money. They have the big market there in New York, and if they have the big money, that's what's going to get you the big players. So why wouldn't you spend it if you have it? It didn't necessarily overpay Sabathia, in my opinion. I think that Sabathia was going to get big money, like a lot of money from anywhere where he went. So, I mean, the Yankees, I think, were wise in giving him that much money to go there.
I agree. But it is inflating the prices of a lot of these players. So, I mean, when will it stop? That's a good question. Next email is from Joanna. It says, so far the Hawks have been impressive. Will it last? Well, I think they're for real at home. They won 15 of their first 19 games at home in the Highlight Factory. On the road is a completely different story. Can they be the road warriors that they possibly could be? They were 7-11 in their first 18 games on the road this season. Not very good. So I've got confidence in the Hawks because they have, Mike Bibby and Joe Johnson having a great year. That tandem right there has been very solid. But then Josh Smith has been hurt throughout the season a little bit, and Al Horford as well. What do you think about the Hawks?
Well, we're almost at the halfway point of the season, and the Hawks are 7 games over 500. So unless they have a serious meltdown here in the second half, I think the Hawks are going to the playoffs for the second straight year.
I think so, too. Next email.
All right, this one's from Joy. Who would you guys give the Heisman Trophy to? I'm going Tim Tebow.
Why?
30 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. That's a pretty solid year. Those are Heisman-type numbers. I mean, I'm not to take anything away from Bradford, but Tebow definitely had a great year. And, he caps it off with that national championship performance as well. So
yeah, but, you really can't go wrong with all of them. That was the good thing. You had Bradford, you had Tebow, and you had Colt McCoy. But the sad thing is why Graham Harrell was not in the mix. I thought he had an incredible year. I mean, I understand you can only take 3 to New York, but you kind of make an exception. And then you could even make a case for Michael Crabtree as well for Texas Tech. He had a heck of a year. So I still would have given the Heisman probably to Sam Bradford just because of the season he had. But, I mean, both the interesting thing is that you have Tebow and Bradford both coming back with the possibility of winning a second Heisman. It's going to be very interesting, especially with Colt McCoy as well being back. It's going to pretty much be the same Heisman race again next year, I believe. Next email is also from Joy. Man, she must be bored over there in Nottingham. The Celtics season started out with such promise and now seems like it's rapidly declining. Could there be a turnaround for the green and white? I think it's too late or too early to really freak out. I mean, they're still one of the best teams in the NBA, 31-9 in their first 40 games.
You can't hit the panic button just yet. This is a very experienced team. They got too much talent, and they've already won over 30 games, and I just don't see them really having a meltdown. I really don't see it happening.
I see this almost like, Piedmont baseball last year. Once they became nationally ranked, you had people wanting to beat them even more. And that's pretty much what the Celtics are seeing. They're the reigning champs. They got a bullseye on their back every single game. And, you look at a lot of their losses, the Lakers, the Cavs, Rockets, Denver, they had an overtime loss in there. Those aren't bad losses. The ones that should concern you if you're a Celtics fan is Indiana, the Knicks, Golden State, and Portland. But it's a long season. Maybe they're saving it for later, for a late push to get in the playoffs. Next email.
All right, well, this one's from Beth. So is Brett Favre taking his time making a decision about next year? Do you think he will retire or go for another season with the Jets? Well, of course Brett Favre's taking his time. It always seems that happens. But I'm really getting sick of this. I hope he retires. I think he will retire because, with this disappointing season, not getting his team to the playoffs, and now with Mangini firing, I don't think he's going to want to have to deal with a new coach coming in and getting acquainted again, learning a new system.
I agree, and that's a very good point about bringing in a new coach. But again, I've said this on 3 and Out last year. If the guy has to build up the want to play every year, then it's time for him to get out. Honestly, you can't sit there and take that much time deciding if you're going to retire or not. Do like Tony Dungy did, and decide fairly quickly, so you're not leaving your franchise in flux there. So maybe this time Brett Favre will be unselfish. As for right now, we'll just have to wait and see. I guess it's time now, before we wrap up this segment, to get to our gutter ball. Our gutter ball fact for this show is that a Florida man gets $1.2 million after being hit in the groin by a batting cage pitching machine. What do you think about that, Ryan?
Whatever happened to play at your own risk? $1.2 million. I've been hit in the groin several times. I've been hit in cages, as a matter of fact.
In the groin?
Close. I'm not going to say that. But, what kind of stance does this guy have?
Dude,
that's what I want to know.
I want to know the same thing, but I will say this. If I knew I could get away with $1.2 million, I would gladly stand in front of a pitching machine.
Start pulling Happy Gilmore's, bring it on.
I'm telling you, but I would sit there and take one in the groin, and I would take one in the cojones for $1 million. You better believe it. It would hurt.
Yeah.
It would hurt.
I agree.
Need some special treatment after that. That's all we got to say, Ron.
Stay tuned, because 3 and Out is coming right back with our third and final segment.